Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and you'll notice to my side here that we have a very special guest today representing the Tennessee Titans and also from the Bleav podcast for the Tennessee Titans, a former Tennessee Oiler and Tennessee Titan himself, one Denard Walker. Mr. Walker, how are you doing today?
I'm doing, Joe. I'm doing really good, Joe. How you doing today, man?
You know, the weather could always be better. Like where we're at, it's been
in Pittsburgh. I'm in Dallas.
It's been overcast and dreary, and yeah, you guys get to swim like 10 months out of the year, so I don't really want to hear it. But anyways, you are with the Bleav podcast. And you cover the Tennessee Titans, so we have some stuff to talk about this upcoming weekend. Two unbeaten teams, and I guess let's just get a little bit of. First, let me get a background on yourself, because you came into the league and the team had just moved to Tennessee. Is that correct?
Yeah, just moved from Houston. Yeah, transitioned from Houston, Texas to Nashville, Tennessee in that 1997. That year, basically our headquarters was in a trailer. A lot of people don't know that, and it was next door to a doctor's office, which was a gynecologist's office. So we would see a lot of pregnant women. So we shared a building with a gynecologist. So that was fun.
Do you think that was maybe intentional, so the young men, they couldn't do anything with these ladies that have any consequences, or maybe the ladies were showing up there because of some of the players. I don't know, but no, you know what? And I'll have a fun thing to ask you at the end of this too, personally. But you had quite the NFL career. You were a safety in the NFL as well, a third-round pick out of LSU. So certainly, definitely more qualified to talk about some of these things than I am. So I just want to get your first initial impressions on the Tennessee Titans season so far, because if you were to ask me about the Steelers, I would not picture the Steelers being 5-0 at this point of the season. And to be completely honest, I didn't think that the Titans were going to be 5-0 either. Both of these teams atop the AFC. So what are your first initial thoughts on how the Titans season's going?
Well, it dates back this summer. Me and Davey Hudson, we are the host. Well, he's the host, and we talked about, as Ryan Tannehill goes, so does his team. And right now, he is playing lights out. I mean, he is playing like I'm just baffled about his progression and his maturation process. How he transitioned over from Miami. He didn't have such a great career with the Dolphins, and of course they ran him out of there. And we saw a resurgence in his career, and he is playing as good as anybody in the league right now. I do think that he is a front runner for at least his first half of the season for MVP consideration. And the way that he's been playing, this team has basically emulated his play. The offensive line, they're playing lights out. There's continuity from last year. They lost one guy, but again, they just plugged in another, Dennis Kelly, who was already there last year, so he knew the system. And that's important. That's the anchor on the ship, in the way this game is played, is your offense and your defensive line, your interior position. And when you look at the way that they're playing the guys on the outside, of course, we got A.J. Brown back. He showed last week what he's capable of doing. He's a dominating presence when he's in the game, and that was without Corey and Adam Humphries. And we had guys that stepped in like Khalif Raymond and Baxton. So this team right now, and then on the defensive side of the ball, I would never leave these guys out. They're playing well. Of course, you got Kevin Byard, who's one of the best safeties in the league. This team right now is they're on fire. They're on fire, and I just think they can only stop themselves.
Yeah, and a lot of people would probably dismiss Ryan Tannehill. I mean, we saw the turnaround last year when he took over and got the job, and a lot of people were thinking he'd be a game manager. He's just going to hand off the ball, and certainly he does do that. And Derrick Henry does well with it as well. And we're all kind of in awe. We saw the 200 some yards last week. We know this one storyline is going to be the Steelers' defense and their run D, but I think some of the Steelers fans tuning in may not just understand the type of numbers that Ryan Tannehill has put up. And to be completely honest myself, I thought kind of he got a raw deal when he was with the Dolphins. He never really had stability with a coach or a staff around him, and he didn't even really get to play the postseason game, where actually that was when they went to Pittsburgh and Miami got thoroughly beaten with Matt Moore, and Matt Moore even came out of that game, so they had a backup and a third backup. But Tannehill right now, comparatively to Ben Roethlisberger, and they've both played 5 games each, of course. You have Roethlisberger at 1,178 yards and 11 touchdowns. Ryan Tannehill's at 1,368. Almost a complete 200 yards more with 13 touchdowns. And he's only thrown 2 interceptions as well this season, too. So he's been protecting the football. He hasn't really gotten sacked a whole lot, but I know one big injury we do have to bring up as far as protecting Ryan Tannehill from, the Pittsburgh Steelers blitz and this defense that leads the league in sacks is the loss of Taylor Lewan. Last week. How big? It's definitely big, right? But we've seen the Steelers have a similar issue in shuffling their offensive line here, and they've had some young men come in and step in, like the rookie Kevin Dotson for an all-pro David DeCastro. They've also made a switch at right tackle when Zach Banner, who won the job in camp, ended up going out. Do the Titans have like a suitable backup plan to help protect against guys such as T.J. Watt, Bud Dupree, and the rest of that Steelers front defensive front there?
Yeah, well, first of all, Todd Sombrero is going to be stepping in at that vacated spot left by Taylor. Unfortunately, you never really replace a guy like Taylor. He's that good. He's a Pro Bowl player. They paid him like one. I think his play talks for itself. It speaks for itself. He is one of the best left tackles in the league. And, of course, left tackle is the most important position on the football field because that protects your quarterback his blind side. So that's what you don't want. You don't want to – I'm trying to get that word out. I haven't said it in so long. But that's what you don't want to hit. You don't want to get Big Ben hit in the back, like Joe Montana did against the Giants back in the late 80s. We saw what happened there. That can get a quarterback – it can end up having his career done. So Todd Sombrero is going to step in. He's a 6-year pro. He's very well capable of handling that side of the field. I think he's going to do a good job. I think last week when Taylor went out, Todd stepped in and played well. I know that they had a little situation where J.J. Watt was able to get some pressure, and he ended up hitting Ryan's hand as it was going forward. They actually called it a fumble. And of course, J.J. Watt creates havoc for anybody. I don't care how good a guy is on that side. So, again, for the most part, he has experience because he fills in when on in many roles on that offensive line. So it's good to have a guy like that, a quality backup. So anticipating them having they're going to need for the or TJ or Tolt, and those guys, those guys are monsters. So, hey, we'll see. We'll see Sunday.
Yeah, and in fact, I wanted to also speak about the Tennessee Titans. Guys are in some really close games here. Had one go to overtime. Myself and my co-host Brian, we always talk about good teams end up winning those type of games. It's the same thing with the Steelers, whether or not they've been in any type of close games. This may be a situation where a year or even 2 years ago, they don't end up winning those games. That's how you miss the postseason, et cetera, et cetera. And these two teams have been neck and neck actually for several years. It's usually one of them makes the postseason, the other is the first odd man out. Even now we get an extra spot this year, so maybe they would both make it. But there's kind of almost like a pseudo rivalry, I would think, in the pecking order there, because both teams are looking, everybody's looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, everyone's looking at the Baltimore Ravens, and of course the New England Patriots had always been atop there. I think both teams are looking for bragging rights, within the AFC and within the entire NFL. They want to be called a Super Bowl contender just like anyone else. Now they both end up coming into this game 5-0, undefeated, and we had the whole COVID situation with the Titans and, of course, investigation, everything that went through with that. But this shuffled the schedule a little bit, and I think there may be a little more extra animosity than if this game were to be played as originally scheduled several weeks ago. Now the Steelers have had a few home games. It's going to be their first road game in like a month because they basically had 2 home games, a break, and then 2 home games. So they get to go on the road. There will be fans in Nashville, as there was originally to be scheduled when this game was back in week 4. Yes, week 4. Yeah. I'm trying to get in the head of being a player. You think maybe if you're on the Steelers side or even the Titans side, because you've had some games, the one was Tuesday, and then a Monday night, everything gets moved around. There's Monday nights, Tuesday nights, right, everything in here. How disruptive is that to the players? Will there be some maybe jet lag there, even though the Titans are playing at home? I know they're a little bit favored here, and we know the game, let me see, I had the line pulled up here, 50.5. And the Titans have been able to put up some points. They put up, 42 in each of the last 2 weeks. Steelers have gotten over 30 in each of the last 2 weeks. And the Titans have really only had that first week against the Denver Broncos where they haven't put up 30. Yeah. I'm just wondering how close of a game this is going to be. Like, is it going to be a real tight, defensive battle, or is this going to be a shootout back and forth? How do you picture it going?
We talked about this last night on was the Bleav in Pittsburgh. They had that podcast with Mark and Ike and those guys. And so one guy, Davey, believes it's going to be a shootout. And I don't see that. I just don't see that happening because you got 2 great defenses on the field. You got 2 offenses right now that are playing lights out. I don't know what's got in the big man, man. He's been drinking from the fountain of youth. He looks good after having that year off last year, getting his arm and everything right. He's playing better than he's ever played before, and he's got all those weapons. And I know you guys got that monster down there, Chase Claypool. Man, that's a grown man. That literally looks like some kind of making of Calvin Johnson. This guy's came out of nowhere, and literally he's running away with Rookie of the Year. Nobody in this league has been able to they can't guard him. I mean, they can't cover this guy. He's that good. And, of course, you got Juju, my favorite player. I love the way he plays. You got all those weapons. You got James Conner, arguably the toughest player in the National Football League. When you look at what he had to, where he came from and what he had to deal with in his past. And he just basically represent what the word resilient means to me. And he embodies Pittsburgh. I mean, you guys literally, when they say, Steel City, I love Pittsburgh. I've always been a big fan of that organization, the Pirates, everything about that city.
Well, now, wait, you're going to have some guys that are going to disagree about the Pirates.
Tough. It's a gritty. Don't hate on the Pirates, man. I love that. But, I don't want to get off topic, but yeah. I think it's going to be an old school the way that when I first played. And what I mean by that, when I used to play against Pittsburgh, we always prepared ourselves for a tough game that was going to be low scoring. And this is when Cordell was the quarterback back in 97, 98. And you guys had Jerome. Jeff Fisher would get us ready for a game where he would talk about buckling your chin strap. Okay, and get ready for – I believe we might end up seeing a game like we used to witness back in the early 90s or even further than that. in the late 80s and very early 90s when Pittsburgh and the Houston Oilers used to play, and it was brutal. I mean, there was a lot of fights. There was just guys going at it in a very low-scoring game. I think this game, for whatever reason, and I said last night, it's going to come down to 4 guys possibly determining the outcome of this game. And that's the kickers. That's people that we never talk about. We never talk about guys like Chris Boswell until they miss a field goal. We never talk about Dustin Colquitt unless it's a shank punt. Then we talk about on the flip side with Tennessee with Brett Kern and Steven Gostowski. Those 4 guys might determine the outcome of who basically wins this game. I truly believe it's going to come down to the kicking game because there's such parity between all of the units on offensive side and then the defense and offense, vice versa. It's going to come down to the kicking game. I do believe that field position will play a pivotal role for who ends up coming out with the W.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the Steelers and Titans actually haven't met up since back, when was this, 2017? And I want to say, Marcus Mariota, Derrick Henry was splitting carries with DeMarco Murray back then. So, I don't know that you're necessarily going to see the same type of – I looked this up. Let me see. It was just something that's kind of funny to laugh at. I don't know that it's funny. It scares me, but let me see. Derrick Henry, 7 carries for 32 yards. Still really good right there, but only 32 yards back then. Now, he's running, he had, let me see, career high of 264 from scrimmage, total 2 touchdowns. And, he keeps putting up these 200 plus rushing yard games. He looks, you talk about grown men, you talked about Chase Claypool. Mike Tomlin went in his press conference and said it's like Bud Dupree. Derrick Henry is like Bud Dupree, but faster, So I don't know if that's part of their game plan is to put Bud Dupree in the backfield and let everyone try and tackle him or not. I don't think that's a wise. That's not a wise decision. But you could definitely picture something similar there as far as just freaks of nature. I want to say because AJ Brown too. He's nobody to take lightly as well. He's very strong. He gets up there to high point the ball. He's a tough guy to cover, and there's just a lot of storylines in this game. There's a lot of comparisons because Taylor Lewan going to injured reserve, Devin Bush going to injured reserve on the Steelers' defensive side. So there's going to be weaknesses on either side that the teams could exploit. But everybody has like a full cast of skill set players. We talked about Derrick Henry versus James Conner. Obviously, Big Ben versus Ryan Tannehill. You have A.J. Brown, Corey Davis has been coming on strong this year as well. Adam Humphries, who actually leads the team in receiving. And then, on the flip side of the Steelers, hopefully they'll get Deontay Johnson back here as what's anticipated after taking a week off here from an injury. So, and then, of course, the tight ends, John Al Smith, and you have Eric Ebron and Vance McDonald as well with the Steelers. So offensively, they really compare, but defensively, they compare too because here we go. You got Jadeveon Clowney, who's definitely a force who's been added to this defense, and you still got to watch out for Harold Landry as well. The whole defensive backfield, your expertise, these guys, I liked most of these guys coming out of college as fits for the Steelers too, like Dory Jackson. You got Kenny Vaccaro and Kevin Byard as safeties, and then the other corner is Malcolm Butler. This game does have the potential to just be a slugfest. That actually worries me the most is that Baltimore is getting a bye now because of the adjusted schedule. The Steelers, they could limp out of this game, or whoever limps out of this game. I'm not sure who Tennessee has next too, because I know that everything got adjusted on your end as well. But as you said, it's going to be a major battle here. So I know each of us are looking, though, on our end of the spectrum as, I'm looking for the Steelers to come out with a victory. You're looking for the Titans to come out with a victory. Pretty much my big key to a Steelers win is bottling up and containing. Derrick Henry, because I think everything comes through Derrick Henry. What do you see as the keys for the Tennessee Titans to win on Sunday and defeat the Steelers, handing them their first loss on the season?
Okay. Woo.
So, well, you could just pick one thing that you might need to see.
Well, there's a lot, because first of all, because there's parity among this team, both teams, it's like it's on an equal playing field. It's really hard when you look at this game, because when you look at the matchups, excuse me, it's like there's not one guy better than the other. It's not like, you got AJ going against a rookie, that we've never heard about. He's gonna be lined up on Joe Hayden, and Joe's playing lights out. I love, didn't have, again, not necessarily the best career at Cleveland. Comes to Pittsburgh, he's balling out. He looks like that dog at Florida. A resurgence in career. I tell people all the time, sometimes when guys get a chance to, when they don't necessarily pan out in one organization, sometimes the grass is greener on the other side. We've seen guys vice versa. They have great careers like Le'Veon Bell, prime example, having a Hall of Fame career at Pittsburgh. I know you guys don't want to hear that, but it's just to show you, like with Ryan. It's just, I know, it's just weird how that happens. Like a few years ago, we were just talking about Le'Veon. I was saying to myself, good, I've never seen a back that complete other than Roger Craig in the early 80s that can do it all. And then he goes to New York, got the money. Now he's in Kansas City without the money. Get what you can get, and then it's just like with Joe, again, it's just like with Ryan. You go to a certain place, Minka, prime example. He didn't like Miami for whatever reason. It seemed like nobody wants to play in Miami. And for me, isn't that the ideal place to get drafted? Or is it just too many distractions? I want to know, there's something going on in the water down in South Beach, Fort Lauderdale. When I look at both teams, I can't say one is better than the other. I just can't say that Tennessee's offense is better than Pittsburgh's defense. I can't do that, because you guys got T.J. Watt. You got Bud Dupree. You got, and to me, the most underrated player in the National Football League in Cameron Hayward. He is the soul of that team. He's the pulse. He's the force to be reckoned with. And then Tyson Alu, then Tolt. And then the question is for Devin Bush, who's going to step in? Question is, it's going to be Robert Spillane. Is that who's going to be stepping in this
place? He's anticipated to be the guy. There was some question as to whether or not he'll have the green dot, the radio, and be the play caller. Now, he was when he stepped in for Bush on Sunday, and he didn't come off the field. However, when the Steelers had lost Ryan Shazier, and they were almost using a committee of players in the middle of the field there, different inside linebackers. They had even experimented with T.J. Watt wearing the green dot at times too. So communication could be an issue with the Steelers defense for sure. But we'll see. Robert Spillane first start. And he was one of your guys. You had a shot at him, and again, it's one of those things. Sometimes guys are ping-ponging around before they get this opportunity. It could be his opportunity. It's sink or swim now, because I don't think he could fall on his face in this game. He'll be on a very short leash as to what they may allow him to do or what they may allow to happen, because the Steelers, like I said with Shazier, this is where most of our fan base is terrified here. They're terrified because they've seen this already before, and they saw what it took in order for the defense to rebound after losing Shazier over the course of a season and a half and finding a suitable replacement. And now they got there, and now you don't want to see it regress the same way, because that's how they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the playoffs. They were a 13-3 team, and the Jaguars were able to do all kinds of things with guys out of their backfield, even fullbacks, tight ends, things of that nature. And you certainly see the Titans are built to do something like this, or maybe even just push straight up the middle with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that can be, and like that could be the X factor of the game as well, is the fact that if Robert Spillane gets that nod, How will he plug that middle up? Because where Tennessee is going to run the ball. They're going to run right up that A gap. And they love to run behind Ben Jones, Saffold, and Davis. We saw last week when that 94-yard scamper against Houston, he went right to that right side where Saffold is. And again, Jones and Davis did a great job at basically washing their guys down. So this is my only concern going into this game is, again, in the secondary, our secondary versus your receivers, because we have given up some explosive plays. And one of the things that if we saw last week against Cleveland, Big Ben came out and looked like he was trying to get James Washington implemented in the game plan very early. He was getting behind Cleveland's DBs it was basically it was like it was nothing to them. They basically toyed with Cleveland from the time looked like Cleveland entered the stadium. That was supposed to be a signature game for the Browns, and it ended up a blowout, and it could have been worse. So the only thing that I would say that I would have a question mark, and I do believe in Malcolm Butler. I like Christian Fulton. I like Jonathan Joseph. But when I look at you guys playmakers, Chase Poole right now, it seems like every time there's a highlight to be shown, I see number 11 for Pittsburgh. And then when I look at Juju, you know what you're going to get out of Juju. Juju is about as consistency of a receiver as there is in the National Football League. And then on top of that, James Washington, he's a beast. I've been watching him since he was at Oklahoma State. So again, that might be the X factor as well, is how well can Butler, Christian Fulton, Jonathan Joseph, how can they line up one-on-one and not, get beat or give up explosive plays? And that might be a key for us winning the game, is if Pittsburgh is able to make plays on the edges, that might be another way that they can get out of Nashville with the victory.
Yeah, you haven't said anything I would disagree with, and I was nervous going into last weekend's game against Cleveland. They had a little bit of their fans were getting a little antsy. It's been a while since they've had a very successful team, and looking like they would have been competitive. The Steelers kind of just made it not look like that at all. I think some people may take that as, well, they're going to go into Tennessee and do the same exact thing, and that's not what I anticipate whatsoever. And if there's any indication at all, the way the games have gone with the Titans, as I've mentioned, many of these games ending, let me see here, I had it pulled up. A lot of close games, 2-point win, 3-point win, 1-point win, the 42-16 just drubbing of the Bills, which was very much the same type of eye-opener as you would say the Steelers over the Browns, and then, of course, the overtime game with the Texans last week. So I look for a highly competitive game. It should be fun. Just hope that the weather holds up as well. You've had some you saw the other night with the rain with Kansas City and stuff like that. Yeah. I think both of these teams, though, are built for conditions if they were to occur, and I hadn't actually looked up any type of weather forecast for this, but what does it matter? You know what I mean? We're in the middle of the week right now, so it'll be wrong anyways. It'll be wrong anyways. So, Denard, I do have one thing, even though some of the Steelers fans tuning in here, I know a lot of people are just football fans in general, and even though they may be rolling their eyes and, we're not sitting here like myself or Brian homering it up, being biased and saying how we're going to beat the snot out of the Titans. But there is somebody we have liked to see maybe fail a time or two because he's gotten the better of the Steelers many times, and that's Tom Brady. And you have a very interesting statistic and possibly a story to maybe tell us about a pick six that you had when you were with the Broncos. It was a younger Tom Brady, mind you, but still something you could hang your hat on.
That's
you could tell everyone, hey, I had a...
Oh, gosh. The two picks off of Brady in 2001. But you know what? I could talk about that all day long. And, of course, my kid has that football. I haven't seen that ball in years. It's probably in his closet somewhere. But you know what? I'll say this, is that young stud, I tell you what, he went on to win a Super Bowl that year. So the thing that I love about TB12 is I think a lot of people always want to talk about the picks. Yeah, I was the first guy, I think, from at least what I've been told, to pick him off. And yeah, that's my claim of fame. Yeah, but you know what? 20 years later, Denard Walker is talking about it, and Tom Brady is being about it. And that's what I love about him. He's still playing lights out. I don't know, what is he now? 60 years old now?
Oh, man.
He's still playing lights out. So I don't know what these guys.
There it is. It's the water.
Special. It's the water. That's what the water and the protein. I don't know what it is, but hey, man, whatever him and Big Ben's been doing all these years, continue to do it, and I love to watch him play.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm the same age as Ben too. I'm 38, and I get out of bed and things are cracking and popping, and not necessarily. And I'm like, how's this guy going out there and launching a football 60 yards? I'm like, and then Brady, of course, as you said, I think he's 43 now or something like that. I mean, Brett Favre got up there in age, but most of the guys who get in that territory are usually they're already like backups in the league. You know what I mean? And it's just it's mind blowing to think though that there are players who end up playing like 20 years or so like that, particularly quarterbacks, and kickers, of course. I think Vinatieri was probably like 80 as well before he hung it up. But they get to see generations upon generations. They're playing against somebody's kid that they started in the league with and stuff like that. It's unbelievable. So, Denard, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today and getting some insight about the Tennessee Titans and the game coming up on early Sunday afternoon. Tell everyone out there, if they would like to, how they could follow you, and if you have any other endeavors that you're involved in that you'd like to tell our fans about.
Well, you can follow me on the Titans podcast, Bleav in Titans, me and Davey Hudson. You can follow me at Denard_Walker on my Twitter. And we just talk Titans football, just like me and you talking, Joe. We just break it down, give our opinions, our assessments of what we think, was the best route to go. It's just like any other person out there talking about the game, but we just have fun with it. And Davey's really cool. He's a UT guy, so you'll see us fussing and arguing and laughing and just having a great time. And we try to have fun with it. So just tune in, Bleav in Titans. And if you like the Titans, and we'll just give you everything that we know and everything we got. So, and like I said before, we have fun. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and even despite us being a Pittsburgh Steelers show, I'm sure there may be some Titans fans that come across this somewhere, Apple Podcasts or YouTube or wherever they end up watching or listening to this. And I'm sure it'll be informative for them, and now they know where they could find you as well. So again, thank you for taking time out of your schedule. And I would also like to encourage all of our listeners out there, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We do a little thing here where we sign off at the end, Denard. So I always tell our listeners out there to be, until next time, that is, be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.